everyone. So this is Dr. Jani once again coming to you. I want to appreciate all those who have still subscribed to my channel. Though I haven't posted, I have not been diligent and consistent like YouTube tells everyone. Be diligent and consistent to get followers, to get subscribers, blah, 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 blah. I haven't. So all those who have stayed with me through thick and thin, thank you. And have grown thicker. So through thick, yeah, I'll be thin too. So soon through thin. All right, today we are going to talk about the demise of the British pound. Now, the value of the British pound today, which is the 30th of September 2022, is one British pound is now $1.10 pence. Is it 10 cents? $1.10 US dollars. And this is from the fact that British has almost always over the years been roughly a $1.5 strength or $1.5 value, and it went even as low as 1.09 2 days ago, and it's bounced up a bit to 1.10. So roughly British pound is like $1. It's never happened before, so that is so important. We need to, and why is this so important is the fact that you need to understand that the British were so proud of their pounds, of their currency, that even when they joined the European Union, they refused to use the euro. They stuck to their currency. And when they left the European Union, they still had their currency. So, and joining the European Union, leaving the European Union had no adverse effect on the value of their currency. That is so important to remember. And for the first time, for the past, I think they said 85 years, British pound value is on par with the dollar, the US dollar. If we neglect the 0.1, which is like negligible because it is also deviating, it is not stable there. It's dropping lower, coming up a bit with the attempts by, okay, we'll talk about whatever is happening with the Bank of England later on. I think I'm going a bit ahead of myself. Just bear with me whilst I speak. I'm hoping to make the video as short as possible, but I might rattle on because I'm a talker. But I should make it interesting. So this is going to be a nice storytelling, but storytelling based on facts and analysis of the economic situation and what's on the ground. I don't mind if my video is shared by others. Just give me credit for my input and my knowledge and my intellect. Thank you. So when did this happen? British pound falling in value against the US dollar. It happened in September 2022 when we heard the terrible news that the Queen, the head of the Bank of England, was dead. And some people would say, why is that strange? She's not part of the economy. Well, actually, you are wrong. She is. Because the key booster of the British economy is tourism. It is not industry. Industry has been taken over by China globally. So tourism was the main bread earner for the British nationals and British citizens. And what boosted tourism in the British economy was the royal family. And the head of the royal family was the Queen. That's the head of the monarch. Was the Queen herself, who had ruled or reigned or served, no matter how you want to call it, but she had been queen in this nation for the past 70 years. For 70 years, she ruled in the nation. And her picture was the figurehead on their currency, on the pound. All this while, they just changed the notes, changed the paper texture, they reprinted new designs, but each time there was a new design, her head was on it. Initially it was her younger self, then her older self. So they changed the image to reflect her age on their currency as time went on. But she was key to the pound. And she was key to the tourist industry. because people would fly over to just look at Birmingham Palace, to go to the Museum of the Crown Jewels, to go to Madame Tussauds, to look at just the wax figures of the Queen. The Queen's death on its own would not have had such a high impact if it was not on the effects of a pandemic that we had 2019, 2020, where there was a lockdown, total lockdown, with ban on global travel, and people kept to their houses and their homes. We were made to do so through governmental policies, through global policies. So the hospitality industry or the tourist industry, including internal tourism, was greatly affected by the pandemic. Do remember that. Now, an industry that is already suffering now has the head of the monarch. The key reason why people do come to Britain as tourists die. There are other members of the royal family, but she was the most popular figurehead of the royal family. And she put herself in the public eye, so she was seen at events. She was pivotal to the success of a lot of the events that took place in Britain in social settings. Everything, even if everything or almost everything successful brands wanted to be linked with her. So you look at some brands like Heinz, they are purveyors but of Her Royal Majesty. Even the revenue service, the revenue ministry it was called Her Majesty's Revenue Service, like literally. So that should tell you the role she played in the economy of this nation, or of Great Britain. Which we do not call great anymore. It used to be called great, now we just call it Britain. But Britain is compiled of many other nations. You know, there's England, there's Scotland, and there's North Ireland, which are part of Britain or United Kingdom. So the why I've said tourism, key factor. And under tourism, I have spoken about the Queen's demise, I've spoken about the pandemic, and also need to speak about something else that did happen in September that really was a shocker to me. The national airline British Airways, linked to the UK, decided to raise their flights or ticket prices so high up that as recent as 13th September, the cost of the tickets to the United Kingdom economy class was the equivalent of £2,400 from some African countries. So you think about it. If you wanted to fly to UK and it's a 6-hour flight and you had to dish out £2,400 to fly to UK, you obviously, as a tourist, if you do not have anything memorable to do or a business trip to do in the United Kingdom, you would choose another destination in Europe. Why would you bother coming to United Kingdom? Take note, the Queen is already dead. Flight tickets are too much. Economy, and I'm not even talking first class, I'm not talking business class, I'm talking economy. This is how high they raise their tickets cost. And because they did, other flights to the United Kingdom followed suit and raised their ticket costs. So that became a deterrent. So when you place a deterrent for customers, it's a huge deterrent. They would choose other places because it's the law of economics. There's substitution. You substitute for when prices go up for similar products. And an end destination for tourism, you can always get other European countries to go to. Another thing that affected tourism, or is affecting tourism in the United Kingdom, is the fact that there are delays now in getting the visas to the British visa that would enable you, if you are non-British or if you do not qualify for visa or at port of call, to come to the United Kingdom. So I'll have to use myself as an example. It took me 8 weeks, 5 days to get an ordinary visa that used to take me a day. Like literally, I used to get my visas in a day. This time, through the process, it took me 8 weeks, 5 days. But they did tell me I had the option of getting speeding the process, and speeding the process was 5 days for £500, and I thought it was not value for money because speeding the process 5 days. When I used to get it in a day, I mean, it's still not on par with what I assume should be the norm or what used to be my norm. I haven't traveled for so many years as well, though. So what used to be my norm, the service they were offering for £500 was not on par with what I was used to, and so I did not take that on. And that ended up me getting my visa after so many weeks because they said the European refugees were now a priority. Now, European refugees are not tourists. They are not coming here to spend money. They are coming here to start life afresh. And in natural fact, there will be a burden on the British social and welfare system because they have to be housed as refugees, giving monetary compensations, not compensations, but monetary financial allowances, something to help them. I mean, put them on their feet, so to speak, to help them put them on their feet, or to help them establish their life in the United Kingdom. So we need to remember that. Another thing was when we even arrived at Heathrow, I was shocked. We stood in a 3 hour plus queues at the border control. 3 hour plus queues. I've never stood in a 3 hour plus queues after I became a professional and finished school. I mean, queues were student days, but not at this age. Why on earth would I stand in a queue 3 hour plus at the border control at Heathrow Airport? Imagine. And no, let me just say a short story here. Make it fun. It's just for a little banter, but this is truth, right? So when we came out, we met a British lady who was waiting for her husband, and he is South African, so he had to join the queue with us. And I felt such pity for her. And she said, well, I'm British, so I was out in 5 minutes, and I'll be waiting for my husband for 3 hours. And I started laughing because that's ridiculous. She was not sitting down, she had been standing. And this was a woman in her 50s, standing for 3 hours plus. And her husband was behind us in the queue. So she was yet to stand for another 1 hour or so just to reunite with her husband at Heathrow Airport. It doesn't end there. We get through the borders, the immigration, everything is sorted out. We come down, and our luggage was not on the carousel. My luggage had not arrived. I had to wait for another 20 to 30 minutes for my luggage. And that means that I'm not going to be a good salesperson talking about how excellent the British are in encouraging tourism. I'm obviously going to speak about my negative experience, which will turn off other people. And the funny thing is, when the Queen died, there was so much noise being made about the fact that she's the head of the Commonwealth nations. And yet the Commonwealth nations were the ones standing in the queue. So in the queue, I am an open person, I'm an extrovert usually. So because I stood so long in the queue, I took it upon myself to ask others in the queue what nationality they were and what country they were flying from. For it wasn't just our flight, we had other flights, all British Airways, passengers standing in the queue. So I asked India, I asked South Africa, and I said, oh, and you're all in the queue with me. And the irony of it is that we are all so-called Commonwealth member nations. So I found it really ridiculous because even at the airport, they had these huge posters about commemorating the Queen. I mean, talking about her death and the fact that she was the head of the Commonwealth nations. Commonwealth nations stood in the queue. Britain is no more part of European Union, yet European Union nations were allowed to go through. They were allowed to self-scan and admit themselves through border patrol. We had to stand in a queue and be interviewed. So it makes the whole concept of Commonwealth like a whole ridiculous thing. I think I'll have to talk about this later on because I found it like so ironic and I found it funny that they were priding themselves, the British pride themselves as the Queen being the head of the Commonwealth nations, but do not give the Commonwealth nation members states due respect. So why pride yourself? Anyway, let's go on. So I've spoken about the long queues also at the airport. That is a deterrent. Expensive flight tickets. And all this is what will boost your, if they rectify it, obviously to boost their tourist industry. So if there's a problem, they should rectify it to boost their tourism. So that is it. And though there is inflation of the economy, I also need to speak on the pros of inflation because it's not all bad. If the value of the pound, if I knew the pound would fall in value, I probably would have brought in dollars and made more money. But if the value of the pound falls and becomes in par with the dollar, that means that tourism have more purchasing power. So when tourists, sorry, not tourism, but tourists have more purchasing power if they do come to UK. So there's a pro about the devaluing of the pound. And when tourists purchase goods in the economy, it obviously will boost the economy because they are bringing their money from outside to purchase your goods and take it out. So yeah, everyone wins in that. And then there was a mini budget that was read by the new what we call the Ministry of Finance, or what the British call the Chancellor in Exchequer. So in it, he asked for tax breaks for corporations and companies. And there's been a huge outcry against that policy by the opposing government, which is the Labour Party. And if you are not careful, you listen to the noise made by people, but you need to understand economics. When you give corporations tax cuts, that means you want to boost industry so that the corporations can employ more people, can produce more goods at cheaper costs that can compete with the Chinese goods, or the goods made in China or goods made in other European countries that are flooding the the British market or the UK market. So it's very important for us to understand that tax cuts, tax breaks actually boost the economy. Please do not believe everything that they say. Oh, they took from the poor. They did not take anything from the poor. They just gave corporations, existing corporations, tax breaks. They lessened their tax load and tax burden because the tax load that you think a corporation is paying gets embedded in the cost of the goods you are buying. It's as simple as ABCD. So if I reduce the tax on an item, that means that I'm reducing the cost that you would pay for the final product or the final item when it's produced. That's so important to understand. That is key. If I increase the tax for the corporations, that will flow down through the cost of the item and it will flow to the final price that will be given to the purchaser or the client or the customer at the end goal in the supermarkets, in the markets, wherever, the wholesale places, wherever. But that tax is brought down to the lower end. So the prices go up. And then there will be an import of cheaper goods from China, which we all know is a global industry, a global industry competitor. And through substitution, people will go for the cheaper item because purchasing power is also important. People look at how much they can effectively and efficiently use the money they've worked for. I don't know why I skipped this, but I not because probably I didn't write it down. Another problem that is affecting the tourist industry in the UK is that the cost of transport is through the roof. It is through the roof. And it's not tourist friendly at all. Absolutely not tourist friendly. A travel card as at 30th September 2022 costs £9. So if every day you're in UK, if 10 days you're in UK, you want to travel just within the city of London using the public transport, it is £90. And you haven't even factored in Uber, taxi, or mini cabs. That is even like through also the roof is like 10 times what I pay for the same distance in my home country. So that is how expensive British travel is. It might look, oh, it doesn't matter, but I compared it to the last time when I was in the UK so many years ago with a travel card, and I used to come as a student like annually. When the travel card cost me £1.90, and I would sit on the bus or sit on the tube and go wherever I want, whenever I wanted, because daily I'll just buy the travel card. And it helped boost tourism because when I went out to other places, to other shopping malls, I used to just get on a bus and go out. I might sometimes go without destination in mind. I would just go out. And it increased the amount of money I spent on goods and services. I would impulse buy products. But now, if travel becomes so expensive that the tourists cannot even go out, obviously it means they are not buying stuff either. Because they are not going outside their comfort zone. They'll really be traveling within some specific radius, mile radius, and not go outside that zone. Because travel has become so expensive. So that is also a deterrent to tourism in UK. Now we had the Chancellor's budget. I've spoken about that and its implications for the British economy. That's actually, it's going to boost the British economy. So the Chancellor realizing that tourism is now not leading or being as an effective leader as it should. Is trying to put mini industry at the forefront, which is a very good thing, but most people are in arms about it because even those who know and understand are trying to downplay what he's doing, though what he's doing is extremely important to boost the economy in the long run. But I was amazed when I listened to news and I heard that the Royal Bank of England had released pension fund worth I think 68 billion pounds into the economy. Now I hope I got the figure right because I heard it from the news. So if I heard it wrong, I'm sorry, I apologize. If I heard it right, kudos to me. But when I heard it, I laughed because as an economist, it is basically like having soup and your salt flavor is not enough, and then you pour in more water. So obviously, it loses more salt. It doesn't become more salty. Because when you introduce so much money into a system to try to boost the economy, you cause inflation to rise. You devalue the currency more. And you cause inflation to rise. First, the market will respond with a surge, with a happy response. Oh, we have so much more money. Yes, that's an initial surge of joy, of happiness. That's how the market responds. But later when it comes down, because when so much money is released, what it means is that the purchasing power of what I have has lost more value. That's so important. It's like I said, having soup with not enough salt and you add more water to the soup to make the soup a lot. But what is the key ingredient, which is the salt, loses more of its taste. So the soup then loses saltiness because it's been watered down. So that's also important about what is just happening. I'm viewing what is happening with like a smile on my face, and I decided to do the YouTube about this. I've come here with all the reasons and the whys, the pros and the cons of inflation. Not the solution. I'm not the Chancellor of the British Kingdom, of the British or the United Kingdom. I'm not their Chancellor, but I am intelligent. I have my specialty and I'm an analyst as well. So what is the solution? Is to restore the tourist industry, the prime of the tourist industry in Britain. It was number one. Manufacturing is not going to take over anytime soon. Manufacturing cannot compete with the level of industry that is in China, that is in South Korea, for example. No, they can't compete because these nations are not standing still, or they are not sitting still for Britain to try and overtake them. They are pushing ahead with technology, they are pushing ahead with innovations, innovative products, innovative services. So the British must concentrate and up their game in the tourist industry. Since the number one cause or reason, not cause, because the number one reason for tourism in this nation was the monarchy, was the royal family, they must go back to the drawing board and see why the demise of the Queen affected tourism so much. And for that, as a foreigner, as someone who has objective lens, not subjective lens, I would have to tell them, swallow your pride, beg, grovel, ask for forgiveness, shut up your negative press, bring Prince Harry and Meghan Markle back. And that is my cry to the British. This is what you must do. Beg, grovel, whatever you must do to bring back Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. After the Queen, they are the next popular persons from the British royal family. It is not your current king. It's not the heir to the throne. It is Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle. I know some royalists are going to get angry and scream at me and talk about grace, poise, blah, 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 blah. That is, you see, your sentiments and your emotions do not affect the tourist industry. It doesn't run because of your sentiments and your emotions. Tourism is run because foreigners want to come into your country. And the foreigners who want to come into your country have been turned off by the way you treated Prince Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle. Now, if you want proof of what I'm saying, please go now Google the Queen on Wikipedia. On Google, Wikipedia will be the first item that comes up. Look at the grandchildren of the Queen. Look at her biography of the Queen. And look at how Wikipedia wrote out the grandchildren of the Queen. Prince Harry is first. He is not the eldest, yet he is stated as the first in the names of the grandchildren. Learn from the CNN report on the Queen's funeral. They stated in writing, Prince William and his wife, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They wrote it nicely in the order it should be, as per royal protocol. But listen to how the reporter said it. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle just stepped out from the car to look at the roses, to look at the flowers, I'm sorry, or the wreaths that had been laid out at Balmoral. And they came with the two other royal couples. I mean, I know the media were in an uproar, they were such an affront, but fact is fact. Internationally, the crowd